What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me I have some more RPG horror stories. But before we begin, as of recording, this is the May 13th. We are 13 days away from 1 year celebration, and I have no idea what to do. Think of any sort of ideas on what we should do for 1 year celebration. Let me know down in the comments below, because I have no idea. I'm completely, woefully unprepared. I didn't expect this experiment in a way to run for this long, but hey, here we are. Anyway, while y'all let me know about any of that stuff, I'm gonna get to the first RPG horror story for today. The players who believe that in-game war crimes shouldn't have in-game consequences. I've had more than my share of RPG horror stories, but now that 2 campaigns are wrapped up completely, one sort of died out and I left a 4th because my playstyle was not compatible with the DM or some of the other players. I'll share this one. I ran a 4-year-long campaign as a DM that recently wrapped up. We started with 10 players. Oh, that's a lot of players. The game didn't have a high player attention rate per se, but we did have players drop out due to work schedules, family issues, and life in general. The game started with Curse of Strahd, and for the most part, everything went pretty well. After Strahd's defeat and the PCs leaving the pocket dimension, they got back to Sword Coast, and I started tying in backstories and playing out character arcs with homebrew stuff. One player who had some psychic powers started invading minds for information, despite the fact that other ways to get it existed. Notably, she did this to a PTSD-afflicted cleric of Kellenvor, who watched his best friend, lover, and siblings get torn apart by a massive horde of undead, and then forced alcohol down his throat when he reacted negatively to this. This character spent the rest of her arc being hunted down by paladins of Kellenvor for this. Invading minds for information, that sounds like it would be kind of a bad thing to do. You could just ask any kind of questions about, hey, do you know about A or B or C or Z or whatever, instead of, prodding minds, unless they're being kind of secretive, which would be pretty cool. Honestly, could see myself playing as a character that's like an informant of some kind, like a spy for a faction, and uses like aberrant mind powers and stuff in order to read minds while people are asleep, ponder the information from them and stuff. That'd be kind of cool, actually. That'd be pretty neat. But in this setting, being hunted down by paladins, that might be a bit of a problem for them. The other was a mage. When threatened by a pair of ancient white dragons for casting fire spells in their cave after making friendly contact and later getting trapped in the cave by an avalanche, his reaction was, I'm gonna hold an action to cast an 8th level fireball at their hatchlings. This was after having a discussion about how these 6 hatchlings were identical, and none was some weirdness going on because twins, triplets, etc. are when 2 eggs are hatched at once, not when one dragon is hatched out of different egg multiple times, by the dragons themselves. Then the psionic uses a skill to switch places with the threatened mage when he gets trapped, angering the dragons further. Needless to say, their faces started to appear on Wanted Dead t-shirts and posters with a massive reward. There is a very famous quote, I don't know who came up with it, but basically it goes like this: fuck around, find out. I guess the players are currently in the middle of fucking around, but about to find out the consequences. The mage doubled down when the dragons tracked him down to a ship on the water and attacked. He teleported away, leaving the rest of the party to deal with the dragons. When they were eventually outclassed and overwhelmed, and the paladin walked away in anger, refusing to protect them from the consequences of their own actions, they agreed to a trial, where they were punished by Kellenvor himself, in a way that limited their magic and abilities. One left the game the next session, never to return. The other suffered a character death and decided he was done because he felt unfairly targeted by the dragons and others he offended. We finished out the game, but this incident left a bad taste in my mouth and caused me to step away from being the DM for a while. As a DM, there are a couple of tools you can use in order to kind of hint to the players that what they're about to do has irreparable consequences and could probably put them in a very bad situation. It's basically just using 3 words. Are you sure? Whenever the DM says, are you sure, in a campaign, whenever you're trying to do some sort of a big or massive decision in your, as a character, that's a big sign of basically you're about to trip a red flag or some sort of a flag where there is no point of no return. After this specific encounter and after this specific action you're about to do, it will affect the story in a very massive way. And it's important to let your players know that this action specifically will have a lot of consequences for it. I mean, obviously players should know, but I think it's always good to reiterate in session zeros that there are going to be moments where you will do something where you will prompt the DM to say, "Are you sure?" Because it's a massive change to the story and a massive effect. I mean, trying to set the brood of the dragons on fire, yeah, I think that's a big "are you sure" moment, because you're going to be putting yourself in a position where now you have these dragons hunting after you, especially even after you succeed killing their babies. Anyway, DM, there's not much you can really do. Sometimes players just really want to frick around and find out. They're in the middle of freaking around, but you gotta be there to deliver the finding out portion, because you know, it kind of makes sense. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That's also another way to put it. Not to say that every player decision is going to be stupid or anything, but there are some decisions that are pretty dumb, like killing an entire brood of dragons just cause you wanna. Anyway, maybe just me being pedantic, but either way, sorry that'll happen to you, OP. Either way, let's get to the next story for today. Player plays an outsider and attempts to colonize the world. Hello, it's me again, back for another player horror story. This time in a 5e game of only monks. The game was fairly straightforward, and the players are monks on a monastery in Solitary Island, far from the world and its industry. And keg-like bugs infested the mountains which compose said islands and were a constant struggle for the monastery, and an overarching theme of the campaign. The campaign had 6 players. We had session 0 and 0.5 as is tradition, and one of the players, we'll call him Outlander, wanted to make a character concept. While all characters played as students of the monastery and have lived in the island all their lives, he wanted to play someone who is not native to it and actually really new. His character was a newcomer and despite playing a monk, had no direct association with the monastery. That actually sounds kind of cool. I mean, maybe there's other monasteries in the world out there, or maybe they're trained in martial arts or different style, maybe like inherently specific to their like subclass they're playing. I don't know. Sounds like a cool idea. We went over ground rules. Things like, you understand you will not be welcomed in a monastery usually. You will have to build up your reputation, etc. Frankly, we had a lot of talking before I felt comfortable allowing his character in. He accepted to be an outsider and mainly have contact in port towns outside the monastery, mainly trading goods made inside the monastery for profit that in turn gets shared with the monastery in form of supplies and etc. He was very well regarded in town and often had special privileges, as many town members were former monks who seek profit over their religious ways. The problem was Outlander didn't like the flip side of that coin. He hated the monks who were not welcoming to him. He wouldn't be able to join the players in certain sacred areas and would have to talk to other NPCs outside of that area. I tried my best to balance things for him, as I never wanted players to feel unwelcome from the actual game, even if their character was unwelcome from some part of the in-game world. But I mean, his character arc could literally be just him earning trust of the monks. That'd be kind of cool actually. Yeah, a little bit rough around the edges at first, but over time, with enough dedication, enough diplomacy, he could be accepted by the monks. That sounds like a great character idea. He was offered to join the monastery many times by people who said he helps around so much he ought to be a member, and even started seeing himself be allowed in some areas and generally being accepted. That was until he killed one of the monk leaders. And idea ruined. Never mind. There was one leader who hadn't quite warmed up to him. He decided that he would speed the integration process by killing him. Other players warned him that they would tell on him if he did, and they wanted nothing to do with this course of action, but he did not care. He openly told them he would do it, and indeed went through with it. After being banished from the monastery, he decided he will literally attempt to contact other nations and try to colonize the island, even sending letters referring to himself as future colonial governor. He became very upset when no one would accept his offers and started accusing me of railroading him. I told him the island was useless to other nations, and the only reason the monks were even on it for religious reasons. He proceeded to tell me that he would start fabricating things to make it seem like a better offer, and as he did, he claimed the island had many magical and mundane resources which caused some explorers to come inspect it. Eventually, he would send multiple letters warning him that his actions would result in his death if he does not stop. It got to the point that even his own town allies were backing off of him, saying he's causing too much trouble. He ended up trying to burn down the port and died when the guards came to investigate and were able to overwhelm him. What followed was the most unhinged tirade ever, where I was called the N-word multiple times. My players were called cowards and using every mental condition under the sun as an insult to them. When he was banned, he actually attempted to send me malware and ransomware files every day for a straight week, disguised as apology Word documents and PDFs. Safe to say, he was not welcome in a lot more than just a monastery. What a freaking toddler. Oh my god. First of all, I'm pretty sure that's a federal crime. You could totally report him for that sort of thing. And if you can, do so. I mean, unless you're like outside of US. If you are outside of US, definitely look into your options and consider reporting them, because I'm pretty sure sending malware and ransomware is a federal fucking crime. Second of all, what a totally normal and balanced reactions to the whole thing. Suddenly, when you want to do this one crazy thing and DM says no and other players say please don't do it, basically killing off people just because they're an inconvenience day instead of communicating with them, trying to diplomatize and stuff, or trying to do anything. Another story where a player freaks around and finds out and gets the consequences of their actions. If you just start killing off people without any rhyme or reason, yeah, not a lot of people gonna agree with you. And yes, you're gonna get shunned. Try to force people to ally with you to colonize this entire island, which literally has no resources except for religious purposes. There's no point for that in the slightest. Of course, nobody would agree with that. But instead of thinking about doing something more sensible or trying to make peace or trying to, reflect, maybe it's I am in the wrong. No, it's everybody else that's wrong. It's the port town that's wrong. It's the monks that are wrong. We gotta burn everything down. And of course, you got killed because they have guards. And instead of thinking about your actions, you decide to spout a bunch of nonsense to people, insulting them, and then sending ransomware to your DM. This is the most unhinged child tantrum that I've ever seen. But seriously, I would really consider about looking into seeing if this is a federal crime within whatever place you're living in. If you're in the States, pretty sure that is a federal crime. I'm pretty sure you can report that sort of thing and have somebody contact you and outline all this stuff. And mind you, this is over D&D. Over D&D, you're gonna start throwing up insults and berating people, and then even sending malware to somebody. Good lord, dude, what a clown world. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.